Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. The number of Russian sabotage operations against the West has increased 4 times over the last 2 years, and this year it continues to rise. Russian drones have repeatedly breached NATO airspace, most recently in Poland. How far will Moscow go before the West responds? Our defense correspondent Zuzanna Jurek has all the details.
The night of August 20th, when a suspected Shahed-type drone exploded over the Polish territory, igniting the sky in the eastern town of Olsztyn. In the immediate investigation that followed, the Polish prosecutor's office revealed that the Russian drone most likely entered the country's airspace around midnight after it crossed the Polish-Belarusian border. Although the cause of the explosion is still being investigated, experts are speculating on 2 likely scenarios.
This drone could fall into our airspace as a result of disruption of its navigation system by the means of Ukrainian electronic warfare. But also it could have been sent intentionally by Russia.
The Polish defense minister was quick to point out that this is neither an isolated case nor an accident.
Drones have ended up in Romania, Moldova, Lithuania, Latvia and Bulgaria, and now for the first time in Poland. We are talking about at least a dozen drones here. They were all intended to end up in Ukraine. This is how Russian provocations work.
Polish President Karol Nawrocki pledged that the security services would remain on high alert.
I assure you that the head of the National Security Bureau is in constant contact with the Minister of National Defense. The National Security Bureau is monitoring the entire matter, and we will continue to do so in the President's office in the coming days and weeks.
In response to the incident, Poland's Ministry of Foreign Affairs gave a letter of protest to the Russian embassy, in which
Poland demands that Russia explain this incident and cease such provocative actions. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, such incidents undermine the credibility of the Russian Federation as a participant in any peace process or activities of the international community.
With security officials also highlighting that the perceived provocation is most likely tied to diplomatic peace efforts to end the war in Ukraine.
In modern hybrid warfare, it is typical to use such direct military action to achieve political goals, especially now when the peace process run by the Trump administration and coalition are willing.
This latest incident comes at a time when international observers are calling out Russia for its record number of sabotage attempts against NATO countries, and Poland isn't the only eastern flank member where drones are an issue. On Thursday, Lithuania announced that it has established a no-fly zone near its border with Belarus until October 1st, in response to drones entering from there, most recently on July 28. NATO's eastern flank has moved to combat airspace violations, floating Baltic Drone War Initiative in February. The idea is to implement multi-layer counter-drone defenses, mobile and fixed anti-drone platforms to fortify the land and aerial borders of the eastern flank. The concept is still in its infancy. For TVP World, Zuzanna Jurek.
Referring to the recent incident involving a Russian drone crossing into Poland, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that we expect a principled reaction from our partners. He also commented on a Russian attack that destroyed an American electrical appliance factory, calling it a very telling strike.
Now what we hear from Russia is just, truth be told, simply indecent. They are trying to get away from the need to hold a meeting. They don't want to end this war. They carry on with massive strikes on Ukraine and very tough assaults on the front line, and even launch missiles on an American company similar to many other absolutely civilian targets of ours. And very close to the EU and NATO borders, by the way. A Russian attack drone entered the territory of Poland, and very unpleasant incidents involving drones also took place on the Lithuanian territory. All of this is not something, accidental. It is Russian arrogance. We expect a principled reaction from our partners. In Mukachevo, the Russians burned a factory, an American factory, by the way, a manufacturer of electrical appliances. And those were household appliances, nothing military. The Russians knew perfectly well where they were aiming. It was a missile strike. We believe it was a deliberate strike precisely on American property here in Ukraine. A strike on American investment. A very telling strike, like this whole massive attack, at the very time when the world waits for a clear answer from the Russians, an answer regarding negotiations to end the war.
A Russian Shahed drone crashing on Polish soil on Wednesday has renewed calls for tougher action against Moscow. We have to target Russia's weak points, and their weak points right now are economic, said Garvan Walshe, CEO of Article 7 Intelligence for Democrats, in an interview with TVP World.
I think we need to respond a bit cleverly and asymmetrically. So we could put in orders for the new Ukrainian cruise missile. We could station them in other places around Europe. We could continue to support the Ukrainian armed forces. Russia is trying to keep us off balance a bit. Again, they're sending lots of drones. They'll see which ones get through. They're not always tremendously accurate. Their hybrid pressure has been going on for at least the last 20 years. We have to continue being vigilant. But we have to learn that the best response to Russian tactics isn't always to do exactly what they're doing to us, but to do something different that hurts them where they have their weak points. And their weak points right now are economic.
US President Donald Trump has criticized his predecessor Joe Biden for restricting Ukraine's response to Russia, writing online that, and I quote, "It is very hard to win a war without attacking an invader's country." In a separate development, Italian authorities have arrested a Ukrainian man accused of helping coordinate the Nord Stream pipeline attacks. Our correspondent in Kyiv, Sabotage, has the latest.
Ukraine will be certainly greeting Donald Trump's latest words about Joe Biden's previous policy in Ukraine warmly here. Let's take a quick listen to what Donald Trump said in his Truth social media post.
It is very hard, if not impossible, to win a war without attacking an invader's country. It's like a great team in sports that has a fantastic defense, but is not allowed to play offense. There is no chance of winning. It is like that with Ukraine and Russia.
Now, it's important to note that the Ukrainians have been striking targets inside Russian territory using domestically produced Ukrainian weapons, but the Ukrainians will certainly be pleased to hear these words coming from Donald Trump. However, Kyiv has learned not to take policy from Donald Trump's social media posts, but to wait for more concrete stuff coming from the White House. So they definitely will be pleased to hear these words from Donald Trump, but will be waiting for more concrete stuff when it comes to policy proposals. Now, there's further news in Ukraine as Italian police have arrested a Ukrainian national named Serhiy K, arrested under a European arrest warrant issued by Germany for suspected involvement in the Nord Stream pipeline bombings. Now, Ukraine denies any involvement in this. President Zelenskyy himself denied any involvement in March 2023. However, German press from Der Spiegel, the German news magazine, have reported that they suspect Ukrainian special forces were behind the incident. Now, there has been no acknowledgement of this arrest by Ukraine so far, and they are sticking to their position that they had no involvement in this attack. But certainly the next steps will be the Italian police, who arrested this suspect in the Rimini province of Italy, to begin the process of extraditing the suspect to Germany. This is not the only Ukrainian national that has been flagged. An arrest warrant was issued by the German Federal Prosecutor's Office for a suspect named Volodymyr Z, who is still at large. So a lot to go on there from the arrest warrants and from the German Federal Prosecutor's Office, indicating there may be Ukrainian involvement in this. However, no acknowledgement so far from Kyiv about this arrest. It's Sabotage reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
And in the latest development, US President Donald Trump said during a televised interview that within 2 weeks it should be clear whether progress will be made on peace in Ukraine. He added that if no deal can be reached, different tactics may be needed. Senator Lindsey Graham, a close ally of President Donald Trump, said Russia could be officially designated a state sponsor of terrorism if it fails to return thousands of Ukrainian children taken during the war. Graham called the abductions barbaric, citing over 19,000 children forcibly removed from Ukraine. The senator warned that such a designation would make doing business with Russia radioactive for governments and companies worldwide. The threat comes as Kiev estimates nearly 20,000 children have been deported or resettled in Russia, where they face forced assimilation and, in some cases, military training. First Lady Melania Trump also intervened, sending a personal letter to President Putin, delivered by President Trump during the Alaska summit. The issue of child deportations was a key point of concern in their meeting. The International Criminal Court has already issued an arrest warrant for Putin over these actions, citing violations of international law. Belarus is signaling a major shift in its military ambitions. The country is exploring how to arm its missile systems with nuclear warheads, raising alarm across Europe. At a weapons development meeting on Thursday, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko called for modernizing the country's missile production. A top security official later confirmed that Belarus is assessing how to equip its Polonez rocket launcher system with nuclear warheads. Belarus is also looking to integrate Russian hypersonic missile technology, including the Oreshnik system, which has been used in Ukraine. Though Belarus does not possess its own nuclear weapons, it hosts Russian tactical nukes under Moscow's control. Officials say the move is a response to increased military spending by NATO neighbors and growing regional threats. The Czech Republic marked the 57th anniversary of the 1968 Warsaw Pact intervention of Czechoslovakia on Thursday, with memorial events held in Prague and other cities across the country. On the 21st of August 1968, the armies of the Soviet Union, Bulgaria, Hungary and Poland, or Warsaw Pact troops, crossed the borders of Czechoslovakia and violently ended the so-called Prague Spring, an attempt by the liberal wing of the Communist Party to implement reforms. After the invasion, the era of so-called normalization began, bringing political purges, increased censorship, as well as restriction on freedoms. Dozens of events to commemorate the victims of the occupation were held across the country. One of them was a memorial and protest rally, which took place in front of the Russian embassy in Prague. Participants commemorated the anniversary of the tragic 1968 events and expressed their support for Ukraine's fight against Russia. Polish football club Raków Częstochowa has been fined a total of 40,000 euros by UEFA, 30,000 for fans using pyrotechnics and 10,000 for displaying a banner deemed inappropriate for a sporting event. The banner, written in Polish, accused Israel of committing violence in Gaza. Meanwhile, UEFA opened a disciplinary case against Maccabi Haifa after its fans displayed a banner reading "Murderers since 1939" during the second leg match in Debrecen, Hungary. The slogan sparked outrage in Poland and Israel, with officials calling it a distortion of history and an insult to Holocaust victims. Both clubs have been charged with transmitting a message not fit for a sports event. UEFA's disciplinary panel will decide on further sanctions, which could include fines or stadium bans. Raków's request to exclude Maccabi from future competitions is still under review. Polish jazz vocalist and pop singer Stanisław Soyka, a towering figure in Polish music and culture, has died at the age of 66. Soyka made his debut at 23 with an appearance at the Jazz Jamboree in Warsaw, which led to collaborations with big jazz stars Michał Urbaniak and Tomasz Stańko. On Thursday, the day he died, he was scheduled to perform at the closing concert of the Top festival in the Baltic resort town of Sopot. Known for his versatility, Stanisław Soyka was also a violinist, pianist, guitarist, composer, arranger and a poet. Also, he was the one who performed the Polish version of the song "You've Got a Friend in Me" for the Polish dub of the first Toy Story movie. According to the Polish Ministry of Culture and National Heritage, his death is, and I quote, "a profound loss for Polish musical culture." And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.